In the 5 years I've been doing Airbnb, I've made over $4 million between the booking revenue and the appreciation on the properties I bought. And in the last year alone, just in the booking revenue, we did $474,000. And in this coming year, I plan to do a lot more with Airbnb, and I want to share with you some of the things that you need to watch out for if you're planning to grow your Airbnb business this year. First reason is you really don't need a lot of money to do it. Usually when people watch my content about real estate investing, they first think about flipping houses because that's how I got my start. For those you don't know, I flipped over 500 homes and I still do it to this day. But the problem is a lot of people are scared of flipping houses because they think it takes all this money to get started. They're scared of putting in renovation expenses, and you gotta wait to get paid. Flipping houses isn't instant money, which leads me to why I really like Airbnb as an entry-level way to get into real estate investing. You see, with Airbnb, you don't have to actually own the real estate. You can do something called Airbnb arbitrage that is extremely effective and is a great way to get in the game. Essentially, all you do is rent out a property from an owner with permission that you're able to go put it on Airbnb. This is very key because most leases you sign for a rental don't allow you to sublease, which is exactly what you're doing when you put a property on Airbnb. So as long as you get the permission from the owner, you're now able to go out and Airbnb this home that you didn't have to go buy, put a down payment on, or even renovate. All you have to do is get enough money for your first month's rent, your security deposit, and the furniture and supplies. Now, depending on how expensive the home is and how big it is, you might be able to get into a property for $10,000 to $15,000. And even though you might not have that amount of money saved up, you can go get 0% interest credit cards for that amount pretty easily. Now, assuming you're doing all the right research, your Airbnb can make you thousands of dollars of net cash flow every month. And so you could recoup that initial investment of the furniture and everything else within the first 6 months if you do it right. And to be completely honest with you, as somebody who flips and wholesales, doing this is 1,000 times easier than getting your first wholesale or flip deal. Just finding a landlord who's willing to let you sublease and buying furniture for a property is not hard at all. So I really like it as an entry-level way to get into real estate and start making money fast. The second thing you need to know about Airbnb that I'm excited about is the growth of monthly rentals. So when I got on Airbnb 5 years ago, I first started thinking I was gonna just rent for 2 days minimum. People would come on the weekends, and that was how I was gonna make money. But then I started to realize people were willing to rent for single days. And so I started opening up our weekdays for people to book just one night if they wanted to, and then the weekends would always be a 2-night minimum. Now, even though this is profitable, I will say my houses are starting to get worn out significantly faster by having such quick turnarounds. And not only that, but you also have more legwork to deal with all the bookings every single day. So I was really surprised to hear that many people are having success renting them out for 30-day minimums. And there's a lot of pros to this with very little cons. The beauty is, once you get one tenant for the 30 days, you no longer have to deal with any bookings, any cleanings. They're gonna be pretty self-sufficient during those 30-day plus. On top of that, you're seeing in many places, the revenue generated from a 30-day plus booking is not that different than a short-term booking. And probably the most important thing is the 30-day plus rentals are legal in most places. You see, here in Las Vegas, for the most part, short-term rentals aren't legal. You cannot go put your property on Airbnb and rent it for a couple of nights. People do it all the time, but inevitably the city probably is gonna catch on at some point and shut it down. But if you rent your property for 30 days plus, nobody can do anything unless an HOA says otherwise. But as far as the city goes, there's nothing they can say about it. And I'm actually about to put my current home on Airbnb in this fashion because we're moving into a new place here in a couple of weeks. So it's gonna be really interesting to see how my house performs since it is an entertainer's house. It's got a pool, basketball court, movie theater, and all the cool stuff that somebody coming to Vegas would really want. So if you want me to document the process of how that's gonna turn out, definitely leave a comment below and let me know. And this ties into the third thing you need to know about Airbnb going into this year, and that is to know your local laws. So I already told you what our local laws are here in Vegas. I'm not even trying to run a short-term rental. But even in Big Bear, where I have all of my current Airbnbs, the laws are constantly changing the last 5 years. When I first started, there was basically no restrictions. I could go own as many Airbnbs as I wanted. Then they started passing laws that made things more restrictive. They said you had to have somebody who meets you at the property to go check in. They didn't allow self-check-in anymore. Then they passed a law saying that you could only own one property per person. Thankfully for me, I got grandfathered in, and so all of my properties that I owned before that law are still eligible to be on Airbnb. But now they're currently always having these other laws in the pipeline that could actually shut things down. Recently, I had my friend Pace Morby on my podcast, and he told me that all of his Airbnbs in Atlanta got shut down because of new laws. So the point is, whatever market you're gonna be in for Airbnb, you have to make sure you know what's happening locally. Because even though it's legal today, it could drastically change tomorrow. The next thing you want to know about Airbnb is that you want to get into mentorship. Trying to figure out what market to be in, what kind of supplies you need, what are the proper contracts, how do you handle bookings and reviews, and all of the things it takes to run a business can be figured out on your own, but you could significantly fast track it with the right mentorship. For me, anytime I get into a new industry or a new business and I want to learn a new skill, I don't try to figure it out myself. I just go to somebody who's already done it and I say, all right, teach me, what's it gonna cost? Because no matter what it costs me, the amount of time I'm gonna save is gonna be worth way more to me, plus the amount of mistakes I'm gonna avoid are gonna be significantly less, and it's gonna pay for the cost of whatever this is. And so if you're serious about getting into Airbnb, we have a brand new program at Wealthy Investor called ProHost. We've created a curriculum from my own experience in the last 5 years doing it, but we've brought on another coach, Ivan Tejeda, who has a lot more experience with the Airbnb arbitrage method and helping you get started for very little money. So if you wanna learn more about that, you can go to wealthyprohost.com or click the link below. Now, the fifth thing you need to know about Airbnb before you get started is that you need to create your own management company. When I was first looking at doing it in Big Bear, I started talking to different management companies, and I soon found out they were making a lot of money on their fees. Most were charging 20 to 30% of the gross revenue. Now, here's the thing with Airbnb. 20 to 30% is basically the margin you're gonna make. And so if these guys are managing it for you, you're pretty much not gonna make any money. And that might be okay for some people if they own the real estate and their goal is to just use the property when they feel like it and have somebody else rent it out the rest of the time. But for me, managing a property is not that hard to do once you have the processes. In fact, you can hire virtual assistants to do this for you for a very little cost. So you don't want to hire out these other management companies because it's just not worth it. You're not going to make money and it's not as much work as you think. And that actually leads to my last bonus tip, which we teach at ProHost, is that if you create your own management company, you should be able to go manage other people's Airbnbs. There are going to be people who pay you 20 to 30% for your management. And that's gonna be great cash flow for you that actually requires $0 because they already got the property, they got the furniture, they're responsible for all that stuff. You're just making money in management. And I actually did a podcast with Ivan where we went in depth on everything Airbnb. So if you wanna watch that podcast, click the video right here.